What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I want to talk about a recent trend in social media that I've been seeing where people have been using spirituality as a cover-up for narcissism and special privilege. For the record, I don't think there's anything wrong with spiritual teachers or healers. Likewise, alternative medicine, mind-body practices, therapy. It's like there's most everything that falls under this umbrella of spirituality, I totally think there's a place for, but I just think in the more recent years, we've been misled in its evolution. New Age spirituality has taken this like weird turn where it's almost been weaponized against people that don't understand it or against people that have hurt us in the past. And again, not everyone who listens to this advice is going to turn into a horrible person, right? It's like two people can listen to the same piece of information and walk away with a different interpretation and implementation. However, spiritual narcissism, I think, is especially destructive because it's associated with the spiritual. Trungpa was one of the earliest pioneers of Tibetan Buddhism, and he says, ego is able to convert anything to its own use, even spirituality. So just because you have all the buzzwords down, you pray, you meditate, you do all these spiritual things, doesn't necessarily mean that you're a spiritually developed person. So this leads me to my next point. Spiritual narcissists tend to live their lives in these two extremes. So they'll either attempt to gain the validation of others through this exaggeration of their own spirituality or through what I would call humble bragging. It's basically where somebody makes a statement that appears modest, but it's meant to draw attention to their qualities. So the way in which this spiritual narcissist gets their needs met differs, but they're both rooted in this insatiable need for attention. So they can fall into this trap of like this holier than thou persona, right? It's like these people that claim to empathize and advocate for the freedom of expression, yet is secretly judging those who fall short of their own spiritual standards. So they're mistaking this growing spiritual ego for spiritual awareness. The problem with this, though, is that it turns something that's inherently immeasurable into a competition for attaining what cannot be possessed in a way that the seeker expects. Authentic spiritual practices, though, are centered around a disassociation with the ego, right? It's a letting go, it's a detachment. I came across this Instagram ad the other day from this life coach, and it was like a picture of like this person meditating. It's like, all spiritual and whatnot. And then this headline read, "Become known as a spiritual influencer." Course description and bio. As if this guy, that's running these ads is on this board of trustees that somehow has the authority to hand out these like spiritual badges. Here you go. When people buy his course, it's crazy. Spirituality is not something that can be commodified, dude. You can't teach practices to people while shortcutting the values that come with it. And this exactly is my concern, is that we're seeing this evolution of spirituality that was once concerned with inner work and forgiveness and compassion and reconnecting to a higher power. And it's turned into a status symbol. I was researching this guy who was kind of an expert in this whole mindfulness revolution. He wrote this book called How Mindfulness Has Become the New Capitalist Spirituality. And he had some really interesting things to say. And in this book, he's exposing how corporations, the school system, the government is using spirituality as a form of social control and self-pacification. And this has rapidly become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And many of these programs are offering like a long list of just eating right, boundaries, cultivating higher measures of self-esteem, happiness, unlocking your creativity. But here's the thing. Healthy transcendence is not found in the tips, tricks, and techniques. Healthy transcendence involves confronting reality head-on without judgment. Nancy Collier, I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but whatever, author of The Power of Off, The Mindful Way to Stay Sane in a Virtual World, notes the power of mindfulness is to be able to see what is happening inside ourselves without ownership, judgment, or action. Simultaneously, to lose our great belief in and reverence for the productions of our mind. The dangerous habit is this. The mindful witness itself is becoming yet another form of ego, a new identity, a new somebody that we wear with pride. So true spirituality says things like, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of a relationship. Narcissistic spirituality says things like, I deserve love. I deserve to be rich. The problem with this is that everything and everyone that does not cater to your worldview of self now becomes a personal attack on your ego. True spirituality is okay with not being accepted by people. The work is already finished, and so you can live from a place of already being somebody that you're proud of. So the difference is that one lives for acceptance, one lives from acceptance. So the question becomes, how can we be sure to maintain pure intention in our spiritual journey? How can I be content with the person I am today without my pride just derailing me? This is actually really simple. I would say it's by having a tribe that you can fellowship with. Why? Because it's grounding. When you're surrounded by a group of people that are on the same playing field as you, it's a lot more difficult to be in your head, to constantly overthink things and to analyze. Have you noticed how spiritual narcissists are actually very isolated people? We've all heard the lone wolf. It's like the one that strays from the pack is usually the one that dies first. If you believe in the Bible, the whole story of Satan is that he wants to be equal with God, and he gets cast down from heaven. His pride was the thing that led to his destruction. The reality is that if you want to grow spiritually as a person, there are universal laws, rules of the game, if you will, that are already laid out for you. And these rules of the game are very simple. We just make them difficult. First and foremost, you got to stop letting your ego drive your actions as this shallow means of trying to achieve spiritual superiority. You have to realize that there's nothing to achieve. There's no future you that you have to wait for. Recognize now that in this very moment, how you are is okay. As Eckhart Tolle says, the only moment that we have is now. The sooner that you realize that your outer purpose cannot give you fulfillment, the better. My closing words, man, are just accept who you are, and then from that place, live your life, dude. Anyways, guys, I hope this video encourages you. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see y'all in the next one.